They say a wedding is a celebration of love and new beginnings. But sometimes, beneath the glitter and glamour, old wounds and unspoken tensions find a way to surface. What happens when a lavish event meant to unite instead exposes the cracks in relationships and society itself? In the affluent suburbs north of Atlanta, a grand wedding was about to take place. Chad Sterling, a rising executive with a promising future, was marrying Brittany Hayes, a lifestyle blogger known for her polished image and social influence. Their union was the talk of the town, a symbol of success and status. Among the guests was Imani, Chad's ex-girlfriend, a successful art gallery owner and a respected figure in Atlanta's Black community. Imani's presence was both a nod to the past and a reminder of the complexities that still lingered beneath the surface. What no one expected was how one seemingly innocent toast would ignite a firestorm, changing lives and challenging assumptions. Have you ever been in a room where the smiles felt forced and the words carried hidden meanings? Where the line between celebration and confrontation blurred? This story isn't just about a wedding. It's about the moments that reveal who we really are and the courage it takes to face uncomfortable truths. Have you ever felt like an outsider in a place where you're supposed to belong? Like your presence is noticed, but not always welcomed? Imani knew that feeling all too well. Invited to a wedding that was meant to celebrate love and unity, she found herself navigating a world that often saw her as different, an unspoken reminder of the divides that still exist. This story asks a question many avoid. How do we confront the subtle ways bias and exclusion show up, even in moments meant for joy? When does a celebration become a stage for old wounds to resurface? And what happens when words, spoken in a moment of vulnerability or insecurity, cut deeper than anyone expected? Before we dive deeper, take a moment to think. Have you ever witnessed or experienced a moment where someone's true feelings slipped out, changing everything in an instant? How did it make you feel? Did it open your eyes to something you hadn't noticed before? If you're here for stories that go beyond the surface, that challenge what we think we know, and that reveal the hidden struggles behind public smiles, you're in the right place. Hit that like button and subscribe, because Echoes of Grace is where real stories meet real lessons. Stay with me as we explore a wedding that was meant to be perfect, but instead became a powerful reminder of the work still left to do. About respect, understanding, and the courage to stand tall when faced with unexpected challenges. Chad Sterling and Imani met during their college years at Emory University, a time when their worlds collided in unexpected ways. Chad was the quintessential all-American athlete, popular, confident, and deeply connected to the traditions of his fraternity and social circle. Imani, on the other hand, was a force of creativity and conviction. An art student with a sharp mind and a bold voice, she challenged the norms and questioned the status quo. Their relationship was intense and magnetic, fueled by a mix of admiration and tension. They were drawn to each other's differences, yet those very differences sometimes created friction. Chad's world was steeped in privilege and expectation, while Imani's was rooted in a fierce independence and a commitment to her community. Together, they navigated the highs and lows of young love, learning from each other, but also confronting the realities that set them apart. After graduation, their paths diverged sharply. Chad stepped into the corporate world, climbing the ranks of a Fortune 500 company known for its conservative culture. His life became a series of meetings, networking events, and carefully curated appearances. Success for Chad meant fitting into a mold that often left little room for the complexities of his past. Imani chose a different route. She poured her energy into building an art gallery in Atlanta's historic West End, a space dedicated to showcasing Black artists and celebrating cultural expression. Her gallery quickly gained respect and became a hub for the city's Black elite and creative minds. Imani's independence was not just a personal triumph. It was a statement of resilience and pride. Meanwhile, Brittany Hayes was carving out her own place in Atlanta's social scene. Known for her polished image and carefully maintained lifestyle blog, Brittany represented the ideal of success in the city's affluent circles. Her charm and connections made her a sought-after figure at charity events and social gatherings. She was the kind of person who knew how to navigate the expectations of high society with ease, always presenting a flawless version of herself. When Chad met Brittany at a charity gala, their connection was immediate but different from what he had shared with Imani. Brittany's world was one of curated perfection, where appearances mattered and every detail was controlled. For Chad, she represented stability and acceptance within the circles he aspired to fully belong to. Despite the differences, Chad and Imani remained on friendly terms after their breakup. They followed each other on social media, exchanged occasional messages, and respected the chapters they had shared. When Chad announced his engagement to Brittany, Imani felt a mix of emotions, happiness for his new beginning, but also a quiet reflection on the paths they had chosen. The invitation to the wedding arrived with a sense of formality and expectation. Chad and Brittany agreed it was important to include Imani, a gesture that spoke to Chad's desire to appear open-minded and inclusive. For Imani, accepting the invitation was a decision rooted in grace and closure. She saw it as an opportunity to support Chad's happiness and to represent a perspective often missing in such spaces. Yet, beneath the surface, Imani understood that her presence would not go unnoticed. She was stepping into a world where she would be one of the few Black guests, surrounded by Atlanta's business leaders, socialites, and influencers. It was a space that often felt exclusive, even when invitations were extended. Have you ever found yourself in a room where you felt like the odd one out? Where your achievements and identity seemed to set you apart rather than bring you closer? This story explores those moments. The challenges of belonging, the weight of history, and the courage it takes to show up anyway. The guest list for Chad and Brittany's wedding read like a who's who of Atlanta's elite. Business leaders, socialites, influencers, and long-standing families from the city's most exclusive circles were all invited. The event was designed to showcase success, status, and connections, a gathering where every detail reflected wealth and tradition. Yet, beneath the surface of this glamorous assembly, the racial makeup was unmistakably skewed. The majority of guests were white, with only a handful of Black attendees, many of whom were invited more as tokens of diversity than as equals in the social hierarchy. This imbalance was a quiet reminder of the divisions that still shaped Atlanta's social landscape. Imani Banks arrived at the rehearsal dinner dressed in a custom gown by a Black designer, a subtle but deliberate statement of her identity and pride. The venue was the Ansley Golf Club, a bastion of old-money Atlanta society, where tradition and exclusivity were the unspoken rules. As she moved through the room, Imani felt the weight of countless eyes, some curious, some wary, others openly dismissive. Conversations around her often shifted when she approached. Some guests struggled to engage beyond surface-level pleasantries, while others whispered just loud enough for her to catch fragments of their opinions. The microaggressions were subtle but unmistakable, a patronizing question about her gallery, a dismissive glance, a forced smile that didn't reach the eyes. Brittany greeted Imani with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. There was warmth, but also a hint of unease. Brittany admired Imani's success and confidence, but she also felt threatened by the presence of someone who represented a past she wanted to leave behind. The rehearsal dinner was a delicate dance of civility and underlying tension. Chad's family, especially his mother Patricia, played a significant role in setting the tone for the evening. Patricia was a prominent figure in Atlanta's social scene, known for her traditional values and involvement in conservative causes. Her polite greetings to Imani were laced with a subtle coolness, a measured distance that spoke volumes. The questions she asked about Imani's art gallery were courteous on the surface, but carried an undercurrent of condescension, as if testing the legitimacy of Imani's success. Throughout the evening, Imani sensed the unspoken message. She was an outsider, someone who didn't quite belong in this world of old money and carefully maintained appearances. The polite smiles and formal conversations masked a deeper discomfort with her presence. It was a reminder that, no matter how far she had come, the social barriers remained firmly in place. Despite the tension, Imani maintained her composure. She engaged with guests thoughtfully, sharing insights about her gallery and the artists she supported. Yet, she couldn't shake the feeling that her achievements were being measured against a standard that didn't fully recognize her worth. Brittany's mixed feelings became more apparent as the night wore on. She wanted to be gracious and inclusive, but the insecurities she harbored about Imani's presence bubbled beneath the surface. Brittany's carefully crafted image of control and perfection was challenged by the reality of having someone like Imani in the room, a woman who embodied a different kind of strength and success. The rehearsal dinner ended with a polite toast, but the atmosphere was far from celebratory. The subtle hostilities and cultural disconnects foreshadowed the challenges that would soon come to light. The wedding day promised to be a grand event, but beneath the surface, tension simmered, waiting for a moment to break free. The wedding took place at a historic plantation just outside Atlanta, a location chosen for its grandeur and southern charm. The sprawling grounds, with their towering oak trees draped in Spanish moss, created an atmosphere that was both elegant and deeply rooted in history. For many, it was the perfect setting for a celebration of love and new beginnings. But for Imani, the venue carried a heavier meaning, a reminder of a past marked by division and inequality. The plantation's stately mansion stood as a symbol of a time when power and privilege were reserved for a select few. The manicured gardens and white columns spoke of tradition and wealth, but also of a legacy that was impossible to ignore. As guests arrived, the contrast between the beauty of the surroundings and the history they represented was clear. The ceremony itself was carefully planned and deeply traditional. Chad and Brittany stood beneath a floral arch, exchanging vows with sincerity and hope. The soft melodies of a string quartet filled the air, blending with the gentle rustling of leaves overhead. Sunlight filtered through the branches, casting shifting patterns on the faces of those gathered. It was a moment designed to celebrate unity, but for Imani, the setting stirred a complex mix of emotions. The grandeur of the plantation was undeniable, yet it also served as a quiet reminder of the social and racial divides that still lingered. The beauty of the day was tinged with the weight of history, a reminder that progress often comes with unresolved tensions. The reception that followed was nothing short of extravagant. A live band played a mix of classic rock and country tunes, setting a lively tone for the evening. Gourmet dishes prepared by a renowned chef were served alongside an open bar stocked with top-shelf liquor. The atmosphere was festive, filled with laughter and clinking glasses. Yet, beneath the surface, the social dynamics remained complex. Imani found herself moving through the crowd, engaging in polite conversations but always aware of the subtle undercurrents. Some guests showed genuine interest in her work as an art gallery owner, while others seemed unsure how to connect beyond superficial topics. The racial divide was present in the way conversations shifted and in the occasional sideways glance. Chad's best man, his college roommate and fraternity brother, took the microphone for a toast. His speech was meant to be humorous, recalling Chad's wilder days and his eclectic taste in women. The jokes, however, landed awkwardly. They reinforced stereotypes and minimized the significance of Chad's past relationship with Imani. The laughter that followed felt forced, and the mood shifted. Imani felt the sting of the remarks, recognizing them as more than just jokes. They were a subtle dismissal of her place in Chad's life and a reflection of the social tensions that had been simmering all evening. The toast was a reminder that beneath the celebration, old biases and misunderstandings still lingered. How would you handle being in a room where the celebration feels overshadowed by unspoken tensions? Have you ever witnessed moments where humor crossed a line, revealing deeper issues? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective matters. As the evening progressed, the energy in the room shifted. Guests were relaxed, enjoying the music and the company, when Brittany unexpectedly took the microphone for an impromptu toast. Champagne in hand, her smile was bright, but there was a sharpness in her eyes that hinted at something more. She began by thanking everyone for their support and expressing her gratitude for finding Chad, her soulmate. Then, in a moment that caught many off guard, she turned her gaze directly toward Imani. With a laugh that didn't quite reach her eyes, Brittany said, "We've all come from different backgrounds, but we're united by our love for Chad and Brittany. And, it's so great to see how Chad has evolved and grown over the years. He's really come into his own, wouldn't you agree? He's definitely upgraded, if you know what I mean. The room fell silent. The laughter that had filled the space moments before evaporated instantly. Brittany's words hung in the air, sharp and unmistakable. The implication was clear. Imani was the before, and Brittany was the upgrade. It was a comment loaded with meaning, one that reduced Imani's worth to a mere stepping stone in Chad's life. Imani's eyes widened, a mixture of disbelief and anger flashing across her face. She had expected tension, perhaps even discomfort, but not such a blatant dismissal. The insult was not just personal. It was a reflection of the deeper social and racial divides that had been simmering beneath the surface all night. The silence stretched, heavy and uncomfortable. Some guests exchanged uneasy glances, unsure how to respond. A few black attendees, invited as tokens of diversity, shared looks that spoke volumes, recognition of the subtle but unmistakable insult. Others pretended not to hear, shifting in their seats or turning away. Chad's face flushed with embarrassment. He knew Brittany's comment was a direct slight against Imani, and the weight of it pressed down on him. His attempts to smooth things over were awkward and ineffective. He approached Imani later, offering a quiet apology, but the damage was done. The moment had exposed fractures in relationships and revealed the unspoken tensions that had been building. Social media quickly caught wind of the incident. The hashtag wedding shade began trending, with users sharing their own experiences of microaggressions and racial bias in social settings. The story spread beyond the wedding, sparking conversations about the subtle ways prejudice can manifest, even in moments meant for celebration. Imani, despite the sting of the insult, chose to respond with grace. She raised her glass and offered a toast of her own, to Chad and Brittany. May your life together be filled with happiness and success. Her voice was steady, but her eyes conveyed a clear message of disappointment and resolve. The emotional tension in the room was palpable. The stakes had never been higher. What was meant to be a joyous occasion had become a turning point, a moment that forced everyone present to confront uncomfortable truths about race, privilege, and respect. The moment Brittany's toast made waves, the story quickly spread beyond the wedding venue. Social media erupted with reactions, many condemning the remark as a clear example of racial insensitivity and classism. The hashtag wedding shade gained traction rapidly, with users sharing their own stories of microaggressions, exclusion, and the subtle ways bias can show up in everyday life. The incident became a spark for broader conversations about race, privilege, and the challenges of navigating predominantly white spaces. Imani found herself at the center of this growing dialogue. Messages of support poured in from friends, followers, and members of the Black community who admired her poise and refusal to be silenced. Her grace under pressure only strengthened her influence as a voice against racism and a champion for inclusion. Through her art gallery and public appearances, she began to use her platform to highlight the ongoing challenges faced by Black professionals and creatives, turning her personal experience into a powerful message for change. Meanwhile, Chad and Brittany faced the personal consequences of the fallout. Their relationship, once seen as a perfect match, became strained under the weight of public scrutiny and private tensions. Brittany's sponsors distanced themselves, and her carefully cultivated image took a hit. The pressure forced her to confront her own biases and the impact of her words. She began attending diversity workshops and reading widely to understand perspectives she had previously overlooked. Chad, too, was forced to reckon with the realities of racial bias, not just in the public eye, but within his own life and workplace. He noticed the subtle exclusions, the jokes told in break rooms, and the lack of diversity in leadership. The incident became a turning point, pushing him to speak up and advocate for change, even when it was uncomfortable. Brittany's public apology came after days of mounting pressure. In a carefully worded statement, she expressed regret for her insensitive comment and acknowledged the hurt it caused. She admitted that her words reflected ignorance and a lack of awareness, promising to do the work necessary to grow and learn. While some accepted her apology as a genuine step forward, others remained skeptical, questioning whether it was motivated by public relations rather than true understanding. Despite the mixed reactions, Brittany committed herself to change. She began attending diversity and inclusion workshops, reading books by Black authors, and following Black creators online. She reached out to Imani, not seeking forgiveness, but to listen and learn. Their conversations were cautious but honest, a tentative bridge between two very different worlds. Chad's awakening was equally profound. He started noticing the subtle ways his workplace excluded people of color, from the lack of Black executives to the casual jokes that went unchallenged. At a company meeting, he confronted a hiring manager, asking pointed questions about the lack of diversity in candidate pools. His efforts were met with mixed responses. Some colleagues rolled their eyes, while others quietly thanked him. But Chad felt a responsibility to use his privilege to advocate for change. The incident became a catalyst for both Chad and Brittany to examine their own biases and the environments they inhabited. Their marriage, once a symbol of success, now carried the weight of these challenges. Yet, through the struggle, they began to grow individually and as a couple, learning to confront uncomfortable truths and work toward a more inclusive future. For Imani, the experience reinforced her commitment to using her platform for advocacy. She continued to speak out against racism and promote diversity, turning a painful moment into a source of strength and inspiration for others. The ripple effects of the wedding incident extended far beyond the immediate circle of Chad, Brittany, and Imani. In Atlanta's Black community, the story sparked a wave of conversations about race, privilege, and the subtle ways exclusion persists even in spaces that claim to be inclusive. At brunches, gallery openings, and community gatherings, people shared their own experiences of feeling like outsiders, despite their achievements and contributions. Imani took this moment as an opportunity to deepen her advocacy. She organized a panel event at her gallery titled Unpacking Microaggressions, When Inclusion Isn't Enough. The event quickly sold out, drawing a diverse audience eager to engage in honest dialogue. The panel featured Black professionals from various fields, each sharing stories that highlighted the ongoing challenges of navigating predominantly white spaces. During the Q&A, a young Black woman asked a question that resonated deeply. How do you keep showing up in spaces where you know you're not really wanted? Imani's response was candid and powerful. She spoke about the importance of presence, not just being invited, but being heard and valued. Her message was clear. True inclusion requires more than just a seat at the table. It demands respect, recognition, and the dismantling of systemic barriers. Chad and Brittany's journey toward understanding and change was ongoing and far from easy. The incident forced them to confront uncomfortable truths about their own biases and the environments they inhabited. Brittany shifted the focus of her blog to include more diverse voices and stories, using her platform to amplify perspectives she had once overlooked. Chad became more vocal in his workplace, advocating for policies that promoted equity and inclusion, even when met with resistance. Their efforts were a reminder that growth is a process, one that requires humility, commitment, and the willingness to face criticism. Neither Chad nor Brittany emerged from the experience unchanged, but both showed a determination to do better. For Imani, the experience reinforced the power of resilience and dignity. She continued to use her art gallery as a space for dialogue, healing, and empowerment, mentoring young Black artists and entrepreneurs. Her story became a beacon for those navigating similar challenges, a testament to the strength found in speaking out and standing firm. This story is a reminder that progress is not linear, and the path toward true inclusion is often marked by setbacks and difficult conversations. But it also shows the impact one person's courage can have, not just on their own life, but on an entire community. What do you think? Have you ever faced moments where speaking out made a difference? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to hear more stories that challenge social norms and reveal hidden truths, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your voice matters here. In the year following the wedding, Imani's influence continued to grow. Her art gallery flourished, becoming more than just a business. It was a hub for Black creativity and empowerment. She launched a mentorship program for young artists, providing opportunities and guidance to those who might otherwise be overlooked. Through her work, Imani created a space where voices that had long been marginalized could be heard and celebrated. Chad's journey took a new direction as well. He became an advocate for diversity and inclusion within his company, pushing for meaningful changes in hiring practices and workplace culture. His efforts were not always met with enthusiasm, but he remained committed to using his position to challenge the status quo. Chad's transformation was a testament to the power of self-reflection and the willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. Brittany's platform also evolved. Once focused solely on lifestyle and image, her blog began to feature stories that highlighted social justice, diversity, and the experiences of underrepresented communities. She worked to rebuild trust with her audience, acknowledging her past mistakes and demonstrating a genuine commitment to growth. The wedding that had once been a source of pain and controversy became a turning point for all involved. It sparked conversations that reached far beyond the event itself, touching the lives of many in Atlanta and beyond. For Imani, Chad, and Brittany, it was a moment that forced them to face difficult realities but also opened the door to change. As the story closes, it leaves us with a message of hope. Growth is rarely easy, and the path toward understanding and inclusion is ongoing. But with courage, resilience, and a willingness to listen, it is possible to move forward, transforming pain into progress and division into unity.